Here is every single album that I listened to in the month of November. Starting it off with Bobby Caldwell's self-titled. This is a sweet and smooth, soft rock record that is pretty easy on the ears. I can't really see myself coming back to this much though, as it does lack originality and any sort of special color or flair to set it apart from the crowd. Then I listened to Ada, hopefully I'm saying that right, by Sigur Rós. I do appreciate the dedication Sigur Rós has to this lush and maximalist sound. There's definitely a clear vision for this record. However, the musical ideas here just aren't that interesting, and the beauty that the band is going for isn't quite reached because of the fact that it feels a little bit vanilla and bland. I think taking more risks would really benefit this project. Then I listened to Save by Reverend Kristen Michael Hayter. The more stripped back instrumentation puts Kristen's powerful voice at the forefront and makes for an immensely personal and emotionally impactful album. Instrumentally, this album is delicate yet tortured and gives a sense of this simultaneous feeling of pain and healing. The purposefully rough recordings also give the record a sort of mystique, making it feel like it's coming from not only a different time, but a different universe as well. This is one of the most striking albums I've heard in a while, and it really gives a sense of how ugly and horrifying trauma can be. Then I listened to Two Hands by Big Thief. This is another pre-Dragon album from Big Thief that is lacking instrumentally. There's some standouts here, but for the most part, the tunes just aren't all that emotionally impactful, and everyone not named Adrien just feels like they're kind of phoning it in. Then I listened to Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. It's refreshing to get an album that just gets to the point. A lot of these songs don't exceed 3.5 minutes, but none of them feel underbaked or unfinished. There's also a surprising amount of variety here. I was coming in just kind of expecting a bunch of Wouldn't It Be Nice type songs, but that isn't the case. There's some darker and moodier moments, some emotional moments, and some soulful instrumental moments as well. The mixes are stellar as they toe the line of clarity and imperfection flawlessly, and the vocalists are all equally impressive in their vocal range and their ability to craft unpredictable yet familiar melodies. It just makes sense why this album is held in such high regard. Then I listened to Quebec by Wayne. Let's start off with the positives. This album is mixed and produced well. It is relatively unique and original, but that's pretty much it. It feels like this album is trying too hard to make me laugh at points, but then absolutely boring me at other points. The animated vocals and hyper instrumentals are just kind of annoying, and when they go for a more laid-back sound, there's not much going on with the songwriting. I can see why people enjoy this thing, but to me it just completely lacks focus and is just too desperate to grab the listener's ear. Then I listened to Play His Circle by Lil Ugly Man. The production isn't actually all that bad here. It's certainly a left field take on this kind of southern Memphis rap style. The vocals and the mixing is really where this falls apart. The constant doubled vocals consisting of a pitched up and pitched down vocal is really grating, and lots of the tracks have certain elements mixed way too loudly or way too quiet. Then I listened to Blanket by Kevin Abstract. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of hated this album on a first listen, but after listening to it probably like 6 times at this point, it's kind of clicking for me. At first, the heavily processed vocals felt awkward paired with the indie rock instrumentation, but now I just appreciate the vocals as they do bring something new to this genre. They're much more versatile, animated, and unique than most of the vocals you're gonna hear in this genre. The singles that I wasn't a huge fan of, like the title track, make much more sense in the context of the album. I still don't love some of the production here, like the drums that occasionally feel stiff and lifeless, and the strange inclusion of sub bass and 808s. I think just having a more natural and real bass sound would work better. Overall, this is an intriguing project from Kevin. There's definitely room for improvement, but this is a promising start to his career post Brockhampton. Then I listened to Sweet Justice by TK Mida. From the ignorant trap bangers to the sweet R&B cuts to early 2000s pop mixed with drill beats, which sounds strange, but it weirdly works well. TK Mida just does so many styles so well on this much anticipated follow-up to her Last Year Was Weird series. Then I listened to Mingus by Charles Mingus. There's a lot of detail and nuance to these competitions that I just know my inexperienced jazz ear isn't picking up on. This is one of those albums that I really have to give my full attention to in order to enjoy. It's one of the most unpredictable jazz records I've heard so far. The abrupt and drastic tempo changes keep me on my toes, but that never feels forced. The high octane bass lines are invigorating, and the harmonies between the horns are extremely unique. I really need to dive more deeply into jazz because I just keep having great experiences listening to these classics. And I listened to Forward by Jordan Ward. Yeah, this is this is pretty sleepy. There's not much going on here, there's not much presence to the vocals, and the production is often underwhelming. It just feels like it's sacrificing anything interesting in an attempt to go for a subtle and mellow mood. Then I listened to Everything Is Alive by Slowdive. It's just a shame how artificial and cheap these recordings are, because there's actually some interesting ideas, but at the end of the day, I just can't get immersed in this atmosphere that the band is trying to create on this album. Then I listened to Heaven Knows by Pink Pantheress. The danceable and cute aesthetic ultimately makes up for some vocals and melodies that do tend to get a little bit repetitive. Then I listened to Bird Machine by Sparkle Horse. Mark's fuzzy yet intimate guitar tones, warm textures, and varied vocal processing makes for one of the most uniquely mixed and produced albums I've heard in a while. The mood of this project feels nostalgic yet alien, resulting in a compelling and slightly eerie listen. Then I listened to Faeora by Bjork. This album starts off a bit weak with a couple tracks that bring some interesting ideas but come out feeling messy. However, from track 3 on, the album is pretty great. There's a variety of atmospheres here that are mostly created with woodwinds, strings, and Bjork's vocals. The more stripped back moments offer some of my favorite Bjork songs in general. Overall, this is one of her more inconsistent albums, but the highs are so high that they mostly make up for these inconsistencies. Then I listened to The Maybe Man by AJR. I will give it to AJR. This is their album with the best annoying to not annoying ratio, but that's still not saying much. The band mentions knowing that they need to grow up, but the majority of the writing and the sound definitely doesn't reflect that. While this is a step in the right direction, there's still a ways to go before AJR can make something that isn't completely unlistenable. Then I listened to New Blue Sun by Andre 3000. Andre making a flute-based spiritual jazz album was not on my bingo card for 2023, but I'm here for it. It seems like Andre is pulling influence from the greats in this genre while still making a record that feels unique. The flute is kind of the focal point of this album, but it never gets tiring as Andre uses it both organically and naturally, but also digitally to introduce varied textures. The surrounding instruments are serene and ponderous, creating a mystical palette for Andre to build around. This record is pure yet detailed and just a perfect way to clear your mind. Then I listened to Songs by Adrien Lanker. Despite this album not containing her most striking or emotionally hard-hitting songs, the vivid imagery, intimate and gentle instrumentation, and Lanker's earnest vocals often put me on the edge of my seat, just waiting for the next line. Then I listened to Quaranta by Danny Brown. This kind of feels like a start to a new chapter in his career. There's less of his classic whiny and wild flows, and instead more contemplative and laid-back flows. The production is more smooth, but also occasionally more bland than what you usually get from a Danny project. And while I think Danny has crafted an extremely personal and introspective record, there's nothing really that mind-blowing here. Then I listened to Excelsior by Slauson Malone 1. This record is impossible to pin down. The variety of styles here is exciting, but it's the unexpected way in which Malone transitions from each style that really makes this compelling. The songs are constantly changing and evolving, which makes for one of the most unpredictable listening experiences I've had. Then I listened to Fay Webster's self-titled record. I don't really have much to say about this. It's just kind of an average country album with uninspired vocals and boring writing. Then I listened to Feet of Clay by Earl Sweatshirt. As much as people love to praise the abstract nature of some rap songs, I feel like this project is even more abstract and way less repetitive. Even though it is pretty short, this project's uniquely distorted sampling creates a strange atmosphere, and Earl is, as he usually is, pretty great on this as well. Then I listened to Aquemini by Outcast. This is easily my favorite Outcast album I've heard yet. The production is hard-hitting, psychedelic, and colorful. It's home to some of the duo's most emotionally poignant performances, and the hooks are what really sets it apart. It's rare that you get killer hook after killer hook on a rap album from the 90s, but this album has exactly that. Then I listened to Crying, Laughing, Loving, Lying by Labi Siffre. Hopefully I'm saying that right. This is a cute and heartwarming folk record that is very easy to love. Musically, there's nothing super standout here, but this guy is just instantly likable and easy to connect to. This artist is gay, and he openly writes about it in a time where society was obviously very homophobic. I just love how bluntly he writes about it, and there's just something so beautiful about his kind of pure expression of himself, even if it's scary to do that, especially in when this came out, which was, I think, the 70s. Oh, also, this album features the song that Kanye sampled in I Wonder, so if you're interested in hearing that classic sample and how the original original sounds. Go check this album out. Then I listened to Living Room by AJR. 2 AJR albums in a month. Why am I doing this to myself? I guess AJR dropping a new album inspired me to go check out this beloved band's first album. And I never really do this, but I gotta let this album speak for itself.
Thirsty, thirsty Thursday. Yodeling, yodeling. Want you to light on the star. You can't go breaking my heart.
Then I listened to The First Time by the Kid Leroy. This wasn't as boring as I thought it was going to be. Leroy is at his best here when he's rapping and melodic rapping, but unfortunately that doesn't happen super often. This album is at its worst when he tries to go for sad boy acoustic ballads, as the singing is often very derivative of Post Malone, and it's especially ugly when Leroy tries so hard to convey heartbreak that his vocals just screech and squeal awkwardly. Then I listened to Girl with Fish by Feeble Little Horse. This is a noisy, dense, and colorful record that provides some really memorable choruses and guitar riffs, and it rarely feels underbaked despite its brief runtime. Then I listened to Party Down by Little Beaver. This has a really dirty and grimy aesthetic that really grabs my ear and I think sets it apart from a lot of the funk music of the 70s. However, the vocals are a bit pitchy and rough at times, and the lyrics are pretty surface level and repetitive as well. Then I listened to The Carter 3 by Lil Wayne. This was my first time listening to a full Lil Wayne album, and what really stands out here is just how unique he is as a rapper. You tend to hear his influence with artists like Young Thug today, but his delivery and flow is just so unique that no rappers have really been able to reach the level of charisma he reaches, specifically with this album. The production here is fantastic. It's grandiose, soulful, playful, and hard-hitting. There's countless standout bars on this album, although the poop bars get a little bit old, and tons of unique song concepts as well. The record does falter towards the end a little bit with Lollipop, Lala, and Pussy Monster. Oh, don't get me started on that track. That track is so creepy. Oh, I hate it. All three of them are really annoying and uncomfortable listens, but the majority of the track list is pretty killer. That's every single album that I listened to in November. Let me know your thoughts down below. I might take a little bit of a break in December to kind of focus on re-listening to stuff that's dropped this year, because I will be doing a pretty comprehensive year-end list, maybe a year-end worst list as well. It's up in the air. I might do one of these at the end of December. We'll see. But yeah, if you liked this, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.